when you sent him the first pair of SquareTops, and he was like, "What the heck are these?" And the end of that story is his now ex-wife basically got on the oar, and then she said, "You can have these SquareTops back when you fry them out of my cold dead fish, because I'm never rowing with anything else." Welcome back to the Sawyer On Water podcast. We are here on the beautiful Rogue River. Today we are continuing our series of industry news, and really today we're talking with industry icons. And today we have the privilege of talking with Bruce Bergstrom, who was one of the past Sawyer owners. And we really are just going to cover some of the history of Sawyer and possibly fill in some gaps and tell some tales along the way. So with no further ado, Bruce, please introduce yourself to everyone out there and tell us what you're up to these days. And
okay, well, I'm Bruce Bergstrom. Back in early 20s, 2011 or something like that, I sold the business to Pete Newport. Up until that time, both my wife, Mary Bergstrom, and Bruce Bergstrom, we both ran the company. She ran the office, did the bookkeeping and that sort of thing, and I sort of did the production and sort of held things together. And the two of us made a pretty good team. So
a true family business.
It was a true family business, and we hung in there. And I guess it was 2010 or so, I got a phone call from Pete Newport, and he called down and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about selling the business?" And I said, "Yeah, I've thought about it."
Right. I've thought about it.
So anyway, it took us a couple months to come up with some kind of a plan that was going to work for both of us.
Right.
And so I ended up selling the business. Well, I've really enjoyed retirement.
Nice. Well, you are completely retired, which is great.
I'm completely retired. Mary still teaches aerobics at the Ashland YMCA. She's working 3 days a week.
Of course, because you got to keep out there moving. You got to keep doing it. Got to keep moving. Got to keep moving all the way.
And
well, excellent.
I'm 80 years old.
Wow, that is an accomplishment.
That was a huge birthday for me.
Nice. You know, I actually just turned 60 this year, so
you got a couple more years.
So I got a few more years to get to you there. But you know, let's start off with the history bit of really, you know, you were the person that was the second ownership of Sawyer.
Yeah.
And literally, you bought the company from Ralph Sawyer.
From Ralph, but it was interesting because I was working at Harry and David at the time, and Harry and David was bought by R.J. Reynolds Company, and I had the ideal job at Harry and David because I was in new product dimension, and we were trying to develop a third entity other than Jackson Perkins and Harry and David.
Right.
So when Nabisco brought it, or R.J. Reynolds bought it, they did away with the division that I was working in, and so my partner and I were sort of at loose ends, and I realized, okay, they put me in charge of Jackson Perkins marketing, and I thought, oh God, I'm going to go down to Wasco because we grew all the roses down in Wasco, and I said, this isn't good for me. So I was looking for some alternative to Harry and David.
Gotcha.
And
were you a paddler at that point, or how did you know of Sawyer?
I knew I was a paddler, and I did a lot of rafting, and my neighbor Steve Sachs is the one that told me. He said, "Have you ever heard of Ralph Sawyer?"
You ever heard the name?
He said, I think you and he should talk together. And so that's what started the conversation. And it took us, I swear to God, I think it was like 2 months.
Back paddle on your side. All right. So you basically were at a crossroads, and you started having dialogue with Ralph. And how did that go? So was Ralph?
We were a long ways away.
Right. And Ralph
I didn't have any money.
Right, okay. And he wasn't actually pursuing.
He was trying to sell
A little bit.
but he wasn't. He didn't have an ad out, and he wasn't actively engaged in it. And so the combination of my coming along and him wanting out,
Right. So basically, you start this discussion with Ralph, and over time you come to an agreement that works for both of you.
yes,
And you start that bit. And at that time, the actual factory of Sawyer was in Rogue River. So how did that all come about?
Ralph and I finally came to a decision, and he agreed to sell me. And there were a few things in the purchase that I wasn't ready for that I found out afterwards. And one was our biggest customer was Willie Boat, and they bought all kinds of oars. Well, Ralph had traded Willie Boat for a drift boat. And so they had like a 2-year supply of oars, so they didn't have to buy any oars from me anymore.
Because you had already got the boat.
So they took my biggest customer and went away. And the other thing I found out was that he had probably close to 300 paddles that were all cross-laminated. And
That's good stuff.
it hasn't been successful. Okay, the cross-laminated paddles.
They were almost the beginning of the end. They were the demise of Ralph's paddling.
And so I was sitting there with 300 of these paddles trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with them?
Okay,
So
stop paddling.
Okay.
Keep going. You can keep talking.
Okay. And I called the biggest paddle dealer that I knew of in Australia. And I said, hey, do I have a deal for you? And I sold him all 300 paddles for $5 a piece.
All right, let's go
And
forward.
I was so happy to be done with that, because he wasn't very successful with the cross-lamination.
Right.
His rationale was that it's a stronger paddle blade, because the cross-laminates rather than vertically laminated.
Right.
The cross-lamination, is a stronger way to put it. But it wasn't acceptable to the marketplace.
Right. So he was going against the grain, so to
He was
speak.
going against the grain, yeah.
And he had a concept that in his head made total sense, but the market had no reception of it.
And so, anyway, I dumped those paddles and shipped them all off to Australia. So that was one problem out of the way. Then we had all kinds of reject paddles that needed to be refurbished. So we just started refurbishing paddles and making paddles, and I had to learn the business. So,
Right. So when you bought the business, were there some shop people that came with the business? Did any of the
yes,
people stay on?
The production manager of the business, Bill Berman, and he lived about 2 houses down from the Rogue River place. And so it was easy for him to just continue on. So that was great, because he and I became real good friends, and he was the production man.
Right, rightfully so. You needed
He knew what he was
each
doing.
other.
And so a couple years later, I lived in Ashland, and I got tired of commuting all the way to Rogue River every day. And so I said, well, we got to move this plant closer to where we are. And we'd outgrown the facility in Rogue River. We started making oars, and we started, pushing the paddles, and everything was working. And so we ended up building a plant in Talent. And I was looking around all over the place. I was looking in Medford and Ashland and all these places, and there was a place in Ashland that we almost bought. It was an old.
So what was the year that you bought the business from Ralph?
It was 3 years after No, it wasn't, because when I sold to Ralph, I'd been in the business for about 24 years.
24 years. So basically, if we go back from 2011, 24 years basically was, would be like the mid 80s.
Okay, the mid 80s.
So the mid 80s. So Ralph pretty much had the company from 67 to 83, 84, and then you probably started dialoguing with him.
Okay.
And purchased the company in the mid 80s, which just to take a timeline piece here, that basically when I graduated from high school. So we have the timeline piece there.
I knew of you because you were on my list of people that I would have take over the company.
Yes.
And so when I found out that you were looking for some exit from guiding,
right,
and Pete asked me, I said I'd hire him in a minute. There was no question.
And I do appreciate that, Bruce, because one of the things that I noticed early on when I was guiding, and I appreciate this of you, we're just gonna stay in this eddy, is that I realized when the factory had moved there to Talent, and you were doing business right out of the factory, and outfitters were a big part of your business.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed right away is that if you go to pick up product or drop something off at Sawyer, you should clear your schedule. You should clear your schedule and have some time, because if Bruce wants to chat with you, it is definitely worth your while to chat with Bruce. And so I believe that that's kind of how we got to know each other, because I just kind of made sure that, like, okay, if there's oars to pick up, I'm not going to just send someone over there to pick up, drop off. I'm going there personally, and I'm going to talk to Bruce. And because of that, through the years, you did give me different product to try out. We got to know each other, and yes, actually, just that networking aspect and identifying that was kind of what you wanted, because it was like you were at that time I think you wanted that intel from the outfitting.
I was thinking about retirement, and then Pete called.
Right.
And then Pete came up with, he had a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And I realized that you probably didn't have any money.
Right. And so, river guides don't necessarily make too many big purchases, but yes, I mean, I do appreciate that I'm very fortunate that I did meet you in that sense, and that I was on that short list, because it has definitely changed my life, and quite a wild ride it has been, but for that piece of it is really that was very crucial to the part of just getting to know the business and getting to know you. And I remember kind of when I went over one time, and I think I was getting some smoker whitewaters or some smoker drifters, and you came out and you're like, have you ever tried these polecats? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't think I've even heard of them. He's like, well, would you try them out? They're a great oar, but no one will buy them because they're too inexpensive. And I'm like, oh, inexpensive sounds great to me as an outfitter. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I think you literally talked me in to actually getting the first pair of polecats that I got. And I was so fortunate, because it was like, oh, these are great work tools for what we're doing. And
if you snap the blade off, you just buy a new blade.
Right. And then forever, we always talk about just the sleeper in the line is literally taking the polecat shaft and hooking it up with a Dynamite blade. It's like one of the more expensive blades with the more affordable shaft, and it's a beautiful balanced oar.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was kind of one of those things that I think Willie's was kind of learning that a little bit, and then definitely guide outfits were definitely kind of figuring that out.
I had a lot of trouble introducing the Dynamite or the composite shaft, and I think the biggest problem was getting outfitters to try it. And then once the outfitters got it, they were breaking the blades off all the time.
Right.
And that sort of bothered me. And so I said, well, this is a recreational oar. This isn't an outfitter oar. And so we sort of went forward from there.
Right. And so is that where the large diameter outfitter sizing came from?
Yeah.
Because they liked the old hybrid.
Yeah.
Hybrid was stout, and it was definitely burly. It was doing a job, and so that was just a way for you to.
Well, the outfitter had a laminate its center lamination was ash.
Right,
So it was
right.
a lot stronger than
Right.
our regular blades or regular oars. And so when we made it into a blade, it was a lot stronger than our regular oars.
Gotcha. So that's really kind of where, because we get that question a lot, is like, why are there these two diameters? And it's easy when you tell people that this is the outfitter diameter. And they're like, oh, well, outfitters. And yeah, most people, even outfitters, sometimes define themselves as like, yes, extra duty everything because we break everything. And that is kind of true in this industry.
It's kind of true. It is true.
It is true. Like if you want to test a product, just build it as stout as you think you can, and then give it to an outfitter, and they'll take it and tell you how long it takes before they break it, for sure, absolutely. And so let's kind of circle back a little bit, where so you get tired of driving to Rogue River, and you are looking for property.
I'm looking for property.
So how did that
it used to be a dental manufacturing thing in Talent, and it was a huge, I mean, it was like a full square city block. Okay. And I thought, well, God, I could buy it. And it was about the same cost as our building a building. But then I said, but then I have to deal with the city of Ashland. And I had lived in Ashland, and I knew that I didn't want to have anything to do with the city of Ashland. And so we built a building in Talent. But that was interesting too, because I started looking for property in Talent. And finally, the Oregon, but it's So Ready.
So Ready, yeah.
So Ready got a hold of me, and I got a hold of them, and they said, well, the city of Talent owns this property, and they've sold off all the frontage on Rapp Road and on Talent Avenue.
Talent Avenue.
And they said, but there's a
whole bunch of land
there's
behind
about 4
there.
acres that are back there, and there's no road to it, and there's just a dirt. A dirt path that goes back there. And he said, if you buy that property, we'll put in the road. And he said, and it's pointed right to the exit. And so we can put in the road, and it'll eventually we'll abandon Rapp Road, and we'll run it through what was going to be a Talent industrial park.
Yeah. That never came
then
back.
down. And so when they put in the road, they put in the sewer for the industrial park. And so the sewer out in front of Sawyer is about 30 feet deep. And needless to say, they never put in the
put in the rest of that. But that brings me to a question: is that so we're our facility is in Talent, and it's on Rogue River Parkway.
Right.
And something tells me that you had something to do with the naming of the street we're on, because you literally moved the factory from Rogue River, and now all of a sudden in Talent, we're on Rogue River Parkway. So tell me that story. How did that come about?
I just told the city. I said we're putting in this road, but you need to call it Rogue River Parkway. And they were in agreement. They were looking for a name. They had to come up with a name.
Right.
And Rogue River Parkway, made sense. So they named it Rogue River Parkway.
That was some just stroke of genius, Bruce. I mean, I love telling people even today, like, where are you delivering? Rogue River Parkway. It's like, of course. Where would we manufacture any place else but on Rogue River Parkway? I mean, we're not on Bob Smith's Industrial Park. We're on Rogue River Parkway.
But anyway, we built the plant on about 2 acres. And I bought over 4 acres altogether. Right. And so when I sold the business to Pete, I gave him the 2 acres that the plant was on, and then I gave him an option on 2 additional acres. And he, fortunately for me, he only took the
2 acres that had
the plant on it, and so I still own the property between the plant, and I sold off some acreage to Steve Clayton Guitar Pick Company, and then Navarro Canoe used to be in that
building. Absolutely.
And
right across the other manufacturing little wing there.
And I still own the property that's between the two, and I were trying to figure out what to do with it, but I've learned sort of the hard way that when somebody buys property, you have to reinvest the funds almost immediately. You have like 30 days in order to reinvest it in a investment. And so when Pete bought the plant, I was suddenly thrown into the rental business. And so we bought a house in Talent, and we bought one that's 2 doors down from our house. And it was sort of a fixer-upper, but it was cheap.
Right. That keeps you busy and keeps you invested, right?
Well, I spent 3 years renovating the house.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's switch gears a little bit to just kind of staffing, because
Okay.
I mean, I know that it was probably always a challenge for you, because I mean.
Well, Bill Berman was my
Bill
production
Berman
manager
was your guy in Rogue River.
in
Did
Rogue
he
River.
move?
And he moved. He made the transition.
We've got a couple river otters just playing around in
wow.
the side of the river there. Just beautiful little bit. So yeah, so like, I mean, that's one of the things, like one of the things we're noticing is like we get a lot of people that come to work for us. They come from construction.
Yeah.
And because that's what they have familiarity with, is basically building things. And then they don't realize that all of a sudden it's like, no, this really isn't construction, and it's not cabinet making. It's literally, I think the closest thing that we compare it to is it's shaping, like surfboards, and that is really one of the things that we just constantly are kind of presented with, is that folks that take the wood shape out and then they literally shape it to what they need.
Yeah.
And then they move it on. And so really, like I think that was a Pete thing, is that we just kind of started referring to the guys as shapers. And yeah, we got like 3 otters all behind us here. They're just happy as could be, just playing around in this eddy back here. It's just unbelievable. Like, I love it. Just like, they're just right here in the studio. There are 3 otters just playing around. They're swimming around in the background here, I mean, I actually asked them to come, and I didn't think they were gonna, because they didn't communicate back that they were gonna be here. But we're very happy that they showed up. But yeah, so we've got all the shapers, and I think the biggest challenge is that what people find out is that we're dealing with epoxies and we're dealing with glues and that kind of thing, and we get a lot of folks that never really realize until they start working for us that some of these things have reactions to them. And so like what has really been strong for us is that we're very huge on cross training.
Okay.
Because if you get a good worker, more than likely there is a place in the plant that they can work. But it may not necessarily be the first place.
Yeah.
Right? And so did you deal with any of that kind of stuff, or maybe
Not really. I know that the varnish room was always a problem.
Varnish is an art. Varnish is an art in itself, for
and
sure.
I'm not sure that the varnish room is up to standards.
Varnish room has been tested multiple times. It has passed every time, so you will be happy to know that
but
it
there is
doing
a fresh
quite well.
air vent into the varnish room that goes out, and it goes across the parking lot, and it's pulling air from out by the boulevard. And my thought was at the time was that I would put a fan in there and do it, but I never needed to.
Right. No, the varnish room works really well because it is the only place with circulated air and the only place with controlled climate. So
Wow.
it is it's the most pleasant place of the entire shop, because since we have taken on the company, a couple things that have happened is actually, warming the place in the wintertime, and in turn cooling it in the summertime, because this has become a very important piece to production.
Yeah.
Because in the wintertime, things don't cure fast enough if we can't warm it up. And in the summertime, things cure too quick if we can't cool it down. And this was Israel's find, where we had one of our workers that was really good and really fast at doing an epoxy process.
Yeah.
And when we would mix up a batch of epoxy and they would start going in, this guy could do probably 25 pieces.
Wow.
And we noticed in the heat, a lot of the other guys were getting nowhere close, and even his numbers started to drop. And we realized that the epoxy is literally activating while they're trying to actually make the product. So we must cool it down. And that in turn, like that and just heating and, you know, quickening and drying of the wood had really kind of accelerated things. Let's go forward. So yeah, I mean, the whole manufacturing process is pretty incredible. And you know, many people know that, you know, that the founder of Willys, Billy Illingsworth, pretty much is the reason that we make oars. And you know, the peskiness of Willie Illingsworth probably is why Ralph had these side deals with Willys, because Ralph didn't really want to build oars.
No.
And Willie kind of talked him into it. Let's go forward. So another piece that a lot of people don't know, so that's good, is that Sawyer is also the owner of Smoker. And the Sawyer brand and the Smoker brand operate symbiotically together under one company brand. And earlier you were telling me a little bit of how that happened. And so I was fairly amazed to find that out. But tell me that story of just kind of how that came about, and take the folks into receiving that phone call.
we were probably a month or two into the talent setting, or no, we were just in the process of moving to talent, and I get this phone call from Smoker. Doug Smoker called me, and he said, I want to sell you Smoker Oars. And I said, well, I don't have any money. You're talking to the wrong person. And he said, no, I want to sell you. And I reiterated. I said, I don't have any money. I said, I'm just now buying Sawyer. And he said, no, it's important. And so I had a business trip back in New York. So I went back and did the business trip, and then on my way home, I stopped by the Smoker place, and I sat down and, you know, face to face with Doug Smoker, and we hammered out an agreement that worked for him, and he was willing to give me a lot of time to pay for it,
right?
And so that made it worthwhile, and so we next thing you know, Bill Berman and I are on an airplane going back to the Midwest where Smoker was, and we had bought the whole plant. So we had all the equipment, everything they owned, and so we were back there, and we spent probably close to a week loading 3 semis full of junk.
Here it is. It's heading west.
And here we are, loading up Smoker, trying to do it, and what we told all the 3 semis is that you can't just deadhead it back to Sawyer. I said we have to fly back, and we have to unload the truck. Okay. So because they were the god awfulest loads.
Right.
They were what you see coming down.
We put it together, and we know how to take it apart. You do not.
And you see the thing coming down the freeway, and we're the nightmare that everybody saw. And
gotcha.
So anyway, I come back, I fly back, and in the meantime we've loaded all this stuff up, and we left a heater back there, which sort of bugs me, because we could have had a great heater, you know.
Gotcha.
And,
a product dryer.
A product dryer. Well, it was heat. They heated the plant. They had to heat the plant, and because they were in the Midwest.
Yeah, exactly.
And it got really cold there, and so we came back. But when we came back, we pulled into Sawyer, and all there were the vertical supports and the roof. That was all that was there. There was nothing on the walls. And we sat there and said, well, wait a minute. You told me that the building would be finished by the time we had these trucks come back. And it turned out to be just a godsend, because we were able to drive the the semis right down the center of the building, and we had the big forklifts that were able to lift off this equipment. We would have had to rent a forklift to get this equipment unloaded, and so we unloaded it and put it right where it stays. You know, that planer,
so
planer is still there.
So literally, the beginning of the Rogue River Parkway facility was hand in hand the merging of Sawyer and Smoker, basically, because the product was driven down the middle of the factory in a semi just to be unloaded and located in Talon, Oregon. That's a piece I did not know, because I know that definitely moving any of those pieces is absolutely a chore. And since then, I mean, we actually, I believe a few years back, we put in a bandsaw, and the flywheel on the bandsaw is probably like 3.5 feet.
3.5, 4 feet long.
And so I just remember Israel and Rick coming to me, and they're like, we need to cut a big hole in the foundation of the plant here, because the flywheel's got to go like 2 feet down into the floor. And I'm like, okay, and we got this. Like, oh, it's the perfect saw for us. It's exactly what we need to cut this. And I'm like, all right, well, cut the hole in the floor then, I guess. It's perfectly fine. So yeah, you know, it's one of those things. But the smoker element was definitely something that I did not know, and that really clears up a lot of it. And so, but you also then had a lot of smoker product. Right? Did smoker product come?
No, we didn't have a lot of smoker.
So no smoker product. So you made the smoker paddles and all those.
Yeah, we made everything that Smoker had done. And we had some product because we knew what we were doing.
Right.
And Smoker made a really cheap solid ash paddle. They carved it out of wood.
Right.
That was one of their big paddle things, and so we continued that for a number of years. I don't know whether you still make them. Right.
Well, we do make some versions of that. Okay. I think there is what we call the SMBT is actually the latest version of that smoker paddle. And I remember even when I came on in 2011, 2012. There were boxes of smoker paddles still around, and there was definitely there was some purging that went on, similar to your bit with getting the 300 paddles to Australia. Was Pete's bit was that he was in this point where he wanted to do this big purge, and so he went and gathered up all the paddles, and I think at one point we had close to 2,000 paddle-shaped objects, and he worked a deal with a military surplus store, and they bought the entire.
They didn't buy the entire lot.
They didn't buy
it because he sold paddles to a student at SOU.
Oh yeah.
Statues.
Those were after the fact.
Those are after the fact.
That was another pile of stuff. Those were actually mostly all blades, and those were literally in the boneyard, we call it, like outside, palletized, and that artist, as the artwork on display there at SOU. He came,
and it's still there.
It's still there.
This is like 3
years
still there.
Later. Yeah, well, it's been longer than that. I mean, it's been several years. I think it's like 7 or 8 years. But the thing is that he came. The artist came to the factory, and literally picked out all the product, and it was piles of oar blades and stuff. And then he says, "Okay, this installation is going to be outside." So every one of those things, no matter how old they were, they came back in. And they all have 10 layers of varnish on them.
Well, that's why they're
literally, that was it. We literally had to do this massive redipping of all this product so it could be put into this piece. And so yes, that's if you are in Ashland, Oregon, go to the campus of SOU and you can actually see the artwork. Let's go with forward paddle, Bruce. Keep going forward.
What's amazing to me is, and now I understand why. because you put a lot of extra varnish on it.
Oh, yeah,
And I was thinking,
yeah.
God, I don't think these paddles will last more than a
Yeah,
year.
and that's one of those things that is just wasn't meant to be a research project, but it does tell us like many coatings of varnish will protect you and save everything. And while we're on varnish, let's talk a little bit about that, because we use a marine grade spar varnish that is literally formulated for Sawyer by a paint supplier, and it is a lost art. Absolutely a lost art. But just tell me some of the characteristics of why that is so important.
Well, it has
for folks.
ultraviolet protection in it.
The best ultraviolet protection ever.
And it's dippable. And
Dippable?
That was the main thing. Most people that are doing varnish use spray guns.
Yeah.
And we had to have something that was dippable. And
yeah, we're good. We're good. So it's dippable, and it's also it's bendable, right? It's not brittle. So it basically
no, it's not brittle.
It bends with the product. We're gonna loop around here and go into that eddy. So was that something that you just forward? That something you inherited from Ralph? Was that, or did you?
I inherited.
So basically, Ralph was already kind of doing this, and I know I've heard a little bit about the recipe of the varnish. Did that come from Ralph?
That came from Ralph.
So that was basically that recipe is a Sawyer piece that basically lives on, and because the same thing we have. That's good right there. Stop. We have folks all the time going, can I just go pick this up at the hardware store?
Yeah.
and we're like, no, you can buy it from Sawyer. And we have since you have been there, we have actually made it an aftermarket product because we make sure that every product when it goes out the door has these coatings of this spar varnish on them, right? And then of course, the very best thing you can do for your paddles or oars is to retreat them with the actual same varnish that they have. And so, because the fact that the paint company that is mixing the secret sauce for us does not sell it to anyone else and only sells it to us in 5-gallon containers. Nobody needs 5 gallons of varnish unless you're redoing, 30 oars. So we basically started working with them and just said, can you turn this into pints and quarts for us?
Yeah.
And gallons. And they're like, well, we'll see. And once again, it's kind of a relationship and a networking thing. It's like basically we have a very good rep with the paint company that is familiar with what we do. And I'm like, we need to be able to sell this to people so they can take care of their oars. And so really since you have been there, we have taken on really more of a product care piece. Yeah. And that is a big part of it, is being able to provide some of the epoxies that we're using and provide some of the varnish so people can refinish and take care of their nice paddle.
When you look at the marketplace, it's a worldwide market.
Yeah.
I mean, we were selling oars all over the world, and there's just nobody else that is an alternative.
Right. Yeah. And it's definitely one of those things where I think that you really set the direction for us when you started the blending of wood and composites. And that's kind of where the SquareTop came from.
Yeah.
And we've made several adjustments to that along the way, but without giving away any trade secrets, tell me kind of just how that kind of came about, because you were already making wood oars.
We were making wood oars and we were making paddles, and our paddles were not durable, and so we started putting edging on the paddles, and they were all fiberglass covered, and with this edging on it, it suddenly made them hugely durable, and so they could do that, and and we took the durability part of it, and we started messing around with it because the material that we used is not available.
Right.
Hey, you have to do it. So we got them to weave it together and make a thing that we put on our tough head, and it just one thing led to another, and away we went. Next thing you know, we were putting these epoxy edges on everything.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's like it is. You still want to have the beauty of the wood, but you need that to be durable.
Yeah.
And so, we don't want the wood outside edge to be able to be hit at all.
And you look at this paddle, and it has carbon on it, but you look out here at the edge, it has an edge on it as well.
Exactly. And also, I mean, just as an example, you talk about the different stringers where this is solid ash out here on this side and solid ash out here on this side and ash in the middle.
Yeah.
Which that's basically just the blending of all those woods and making that strength and everything. But same thing is there's just a lot of fiberglass and carbon fiber making this all happen. And then you've got the same thing going on the shafts. And so you basically just took it to where you're like, all right, if we're doing this on a paddle, will it work on an oar? And then you came up with the SquareTop blanket. And I know it's not something that you invented.
No.
We know that there were squares already out there. But what drove you to just go like, I think we're gonna call this a SquareTop. We're gonna make the top of this thing square. Was it literally just the fact that you wanted to see? You wanted it to look different?
I wanted something that looked differently, and I wanted to be able to say something about it. And
Gotcha.
The fact that you put a SquareTop up there counterbalances it a little bit.
Right. But in fact, it's really just makes it a very well-balanced oar. And there's no counterbalancing really done because you're not putting more weight in it. We're not countering the weight. We're just making it balanced. So, yeah. Let's go a little forward, Bruce. So you take this whole process of of what you have going on with paddles and put it into oars, and in turn, you start making the square tops. And that kind of clears up a little bit as the square was just something to like,
just
something to make it different. But that simple thing.
And it makes it identifiable because we're the only people that commercially were making square tops.
Being such an identifiable factor.
Yeah.
Just the mere fact that you did that, and in turn we have fully embraced it. It's like it's still today. Square tops are one of the #1 sellers at Sawyer. Yeah. And really like when Link was here and he was telling the story about how when you literally sent him the first pair of square tops and he was like, what the heck are these? And the end of that story is always where his now ex-wife basically got on the oars with him, and then she said, you can have these square tops back when you pry them out of my cold dead country because I'm never rowing with anything else. And those literally have become a very big iconic piece.
Yes.
But
it wasn't meant as that when I first made them.
Right. I mean, you were just trying to sell more oars and kind of combined a few things that would make sense for the folks you're selling to.
Going back to the production manager. Okay, Bill Berman was a production manager when I bought them.
Right.
And he moved to Talent. And so he was commuting from Rogue River to Talent. He was doing that every day. And he lasted about 2 years doing that. And then finally he said, hey, it's time for me to retire. And we trained a crew.
Right. You had staff there. They were doing it.
Yeah. And so I said, okay, well, it is what it is. And I said, so we had to do something. And it was about that time. And I don't know the exact time of it, but I made Israel the production manager.
Gotcha.
Well, he's a 22-year-old kid.
Right.
How the hell do you make him production manager? Come on, Bruce. You got to be smarter than that.
Right.
But
he showed you.
He just showed me.
He showed you that he had that.
He could
skill.
He could do something. He could do anything. Yeah. And so we made him a production manager. And I guess he's still production manager.
He's still production manager. And the thing is that he also just has a following. his staff
Okay.
really respect him.
Yeah.
And they show up and he's out there on the floor with them, you know. And the factory guys, I absolutely am completely indebted to them for what they do. They make the magic happen. I mean, they make this stuff, make these beautiful things. But literally, year round, they are there at that factory at 6 o'clock in the morning, all summer long and all winter long. And most people that live here in Southern Oregon know that at
winter is dark.
6 o'clock in the morning, it is not light. And so they literally show up in the dark to come manufacture paddles and oars for us, and it's an amazing thing, and it's literally that culture and that community. A lot of it is what we're really happy about, how it's kind of grown, and how you talk about, you know, how it was you and Mary and it was a family business, and you know, we still have that going on. I mean, Israel has a lot of his family works for the company. I have a lot of my family that works for the company. But you know, a lot of it is that's one of those things is I think that when you have family that work with you, those are the people you can trust. Yeah. Right? And those are the people that really can share all the ups and downs of the business. And it's definitely a lot. And I'm sure there were some challenging times with you and your family.
There was one point in time where I hoped that I could get Eric, my son,
right, your son,
my daughter, I could somehow or another get them involved in the business. Neither one of them wanted to have anything to do with it.
Right. Yes. Well, I mean, I will say that I don't have my children saying, "Oh yeah, pops, we'll figure out financing and we'll buy you out whenever you're ready. Just don't worry about it." No, it's definitely there's not an exit strategy sitting on my desk ready to go. But you know, I mean, it's one of these things is that what we're finding now is that, you know, you really have played such a big part in the company. and as I told you before we got started, I feel very honored to be holding on to the reins of this company that literally, all of you out there, we are going to turn 60 in less than a year and a half. So it is very, very important to us.
And I think we need to thank Ralph Sawyer.
Yes, Ralph Sawyer
is the one that he started
founded this whole bit, and you know, we are forever indebted to Ralph Sawyer, and that is why the name of the company is Sawyer, because Ralph Sawyer made it happen. And
when Ralph first started with it, it was supposed to be the paddle division of Sawyer Paddle Company, which was making canoes.
Right.
And he left that company because he couldn't stand the partnership.
Right.
He said, I can't.
The Sawyer Canoe Partnership, was there a brother involved in that, or was there another?
No, I don't think so.
Or just he had a partner in Sawyer Canoe.
He had two partners, and he was the third.
And he was going to build paddles for them.
But he was the name of the business.
Right.
And he had the reputation. He won the ensemble many times.
Ralph Sawyer is in the Canoe Racing Hall of Fame, folks, so look that up. Ralph Sawyer Canoe Racing Hall of Fame.
But anyway, when he moved to Oregon, his plan was to make paddles and send them back, and they'd be sold by the canoe company.
Right.
And it was when he came back out here, he got hooked up with Willie boats, Willie Inglewood. Okay. And they designed an oar, and so he started making laminated oars for Willie boat. And that's how he got into the oar business. And then it just went on from there.
Kind of blossomed from there. And also, I think Ralph did have a little bit of a revelation that when he noticed and he got out here to the west, is that the rivers here that we're on are not like the lakes back in the Midwest. So it wasn't really the same kind of paddling.
It wasn't the same at all.
But
he loved it. He loved doing whitewater, and so he just took on to it.
Right. And so that really goes to our lineage of the company and just the growth of the business, is that Sawyer has always been a paddle and oar company that makes paddles and oars by people that use paddles and oars. And Ralph was a big river person. You were a big river person. I am a big river person, you know, so it's really just that kind of, that bit that carries on.
Yeah.
And it is really amazing where, you know, you have a lot of passion for something when it's something that you're going to use yourself, and you go out there and test it all out. And I'm sure you got to do a lot of that.
I came in, I don't know what you know, but it's recent thing, probably within the last couple of years, and you had some CNC guys back there.
Oh yeah.
And you were all gathered around the big lathe that turns out the ores. And I said, well, you could talk to these CNC guys all you want, but there's no way you're going to replace this machine.
Right. We were looking at trying to actually not make a CNC machine, but literally just make a new version of the lathe. And we found that has a lot of challenges. So yeah, many people don't know except you that when something breaks on that lathe, you go make that part and make 3 more because there's no place to buy them.
Well, I remember when OSHA came in, they flagged that machine because how do you protect it? And so I asked them directly. I said, well, how would you protect it? And they thought about it overnight. And they came back the next day and they said, you just have to cordon off the area, and the only person that's in there is the guy that's operating the machine.
Right. It's like put a couple cages here and a couple cages there, ear protection, eye protection, and there you go, you're the guy. And but yeah, I mean, it is an amazing piece. Like that is literally the heartbeat of the company. Is just keeps it all going for sure. And yeah, you know, I mean, it's like one of those things. It's like you've got to be able to spin those lathes, and you know, those machines are. So the Smoker lathe, literally, so when you brought that back from Smoker,
yes.
And about how old do you think that machine is? That machine is probably...
I have no idea.
Probably original in the 30s, maybe?
Well, probably, because it can turn out a solid ash ore that's 20 foot long.
Right, exactly. I mean, we all really these days are only making up to 12 feet, but the carriage on the thing goes to 40. I mean, I don't know who needed a 40-foot ore, but it's absolutely, you know, it is.
Well, they were making ores for lifeboats and.
Right. Absolutely.
They were the only person that could do it.
Absolutely. Well, Bruce, I appreciate you spending this time with us. You know, I think this was really a very important piece of just kind of the history of Sawyer, and I really appreciate you joining us and being part of this. And for all of you out there, if you do like this episode or any of the episodes that we're doing, please like it, subscribe, and comment on what we're doing here. And when you get out on the water, remember to be courteous, share the river with others. And if you watch this podcast and you really enjoy it, remember to tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your river community.
This is what I look like without my
And this is Bruce without his hat, the actual look of Bruce Bergstrom, second owner of Sawyer, bought the company from Ralph, and literally, you know, let us know that you like what we're doing. And if you want to find out anything more about Sawyer Paddles and Oars, check us out at paddlesandoars.com. Remember to get out there, be patient, be calm, and we will see you on the river. Thank you. All right, everyone. Bruce has agreed to do rapid questions in the rapid. Everybody knows how this goes. Once we drop into the rapid, I will start firing off questions to Bruce. Bruce will answer the questions with the first thing that comes to his mind, and we will see where we end up at the bottom of the rapid. Bruce, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go with a forward 2, Bruce. And 2 more. That's good. All right, Bruce. Of all the products in the Sawyer line, what is the product that you are the most proud of?
I think the ash ore is made by Smoker.
Ash ore's made by Smoker. All right, absolutely. If you had your choice of any river to run at any time you wanted, what river would that be?
The Illinois.
The Illinois River. Beautiful, cherished piece out in the Kalmiopsis wilderness. What is your favorite mountain range in the world?
Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada. Beautiful. Bruce, have you ever been on the Grand Canyon on the Colorado River?
Yes, I have.
Yes. What was your favorite rapid?
Oh,
Back paddle, back paddle, Bruce. You don't have a favorite rapid on the Grand?
No, I don't.
Gotcha. They were all good. They were all good. What is the river trip or other adventure that is on your bucket list to do?
Oh. I don't have one.
You don't have a bucket list. Well, we're going to have to work on that for sure, Bruce, because everybody's got to have a bucket list. You just turned 80, so you got to find something to do on your 81st birthday for sure. What is your favorite craft to go on the water in?
A raft.
A raft, absolutely. Have you ever run a drift boat in whitewater?
Yes.
Yes. What kind of drift boat did you run? A Willie drift boat. And if you were to describe the Illinois River in one word, what would that be?
Tough.
Tough. The Illinois River is beautiful, but it is also tough. And that is Rapid Questions in the Rapid. Thank you very much, Bruce. And that is a wrap.